If your brand belongs in the heart of the yachting world, this is where it happens. Yachting International Radio reaches over 1 million yachting professionals and enthusiasts every month, with 77 million impressions, 220,000 social followers, and 74,000 podcast subscribers. Our hosts are insiders, crew, captains, CEOs, trusted voices shaping the industry. This is targeted, high-impact advertising in a luxury niche. Visit yachtinginternationalradio.com/advertise. Your audience is already listening.
Top of the morning, folks. Afternoon or evening. It's Captain Liam here, Motor Yacht and Bridal. We've got the pleasure of Lisa Gould from On Deck Yachting. How are you, Lisa?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. We just had a wonderful conversation about you're actually really on deck. You're on a yacht at the moment now.
I am. In Florida, where it's actually kind of cold right now, which is
the iguanas are falling down, I'm sure.
Yeah, they are actually.
Yeah, it's a funny thing that people don't realize the iguanas all of a sudden they freeze up, don't they, when it gets that cold, and then they drop off the trees.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because a lot of people were kind of excited about it, and now you're seeing all these videos of how to revive them and put them in boxes and warm them up. So you're seeing the compassionate side now.
Everything is Armageddon. Anyway, we connected on LinkedIn, and what really kind of got me excited about working with you is kind of the approach you've got to the systematic solutions to yachting. So tell us a little bit about your story there, Lisa, kind of, your history in yachting, where you kind of came up with this idea, because I see on your Instagram, your posts are great. You always show two sides to the story.
Yeah, I'm a definitely in the middle type person. I'm not one extreme to the other. And I think that needs to change in the industry. I hate that because there's always two sides to every story. And so basically I've been in the yachting industry for over 20 years now, or not in the marine industry, really, for over 20 years. And so basically last 6 years or so, a little over, I just really wanted to get into the interior part of it and see, how that operates on its own. Because really, in reality, our departments, exterior and interior, work in silos. They never really kind of work together, which is crazy. And so I would always get frustrated with things. And I'm like, okay, instead of giving into that drama, let's figure out problem solving. So I've read tons of books. The last 7 years, I've been doing nothing but research on leadership, how to build programs and revamp them. And so that's how I started On Deck Yachting and really want to get into the interior and then the crew portion of it.
Well, to be honest, it's the biggest growth space because, being an engineer, being a captain, these are parts of a maritime sector that we've done for hundreds of years. We've run ships across oceans, but when you can deck, we've maintained deck for many generations. But the interior side is the area that's so important to the guest interactions. They spend about 60 to 80% of the time interfacing with the interior department, having morning briefings with the captains, don't really see the engineers, maybe do water sports with the deck. But 60% of the client's time is with the interior department. So it's important that we develop these structures for them.
Yeah, I definitely totally agree. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't realize how involved the interior team is with the guest. I mean, it's not even just on board. So if you're private, it's off as well. And then for, in my experience, I've always called charter guests, a week before their trip and try to arrange things the way that they like it, try to figure out what their personalities are before they get on board. And then also deliver that to the rest of the crew so that we all know what's expected going forward. Instead of just kind of oh, here comes some charter guest or the owners and we have no idea what's going on. It's okay, we got this preference sheet, but there's more to that preference sheet than there is to everything else. So.
Oh, so on an overview, On Deck Yachting is kind of yacht interior management, crew HR support and training, where you help each vessel create a system.
Correct. So basically what happens is that, every boat that I've ever been on, come in to either get a handover or anything, the Stu Bible or the Stu book is never there. And everything on the computer just happens to get deleted. And so it's it's always you say it's never there.
Don't work. And
you're like, oh my gosh, what did you come onto the boat? And then for me, I always look at everything too, because, it needs to be, all that information needs to be held, and it needs to be in a place where it just doesn't disappear. And so that's one of the reasons why this interior, so we handle all of the inventory comes in. So if something that happens to a crew member that they decide that they don't want, especially if it's an HOD, if they don't want to be involved in anymore, we have all the issue or all the paperwork and all the documentation that we can actually do a handover to the next person. So all the owners are really seeing as a new face, but everything else should be very consistent. There's not a guessing game and trying to figure them out. We're going to actually coach them through and go through everything to make sure that everything's seamless.
Yeah. Well, I know as a captain, one of the most annoying things for an owner is the crew. Is either the crew turnover, the lack of retention, or even the issues with the coffee. I'll give you a quick example. I had this owner that worked for 6 years. We didn't have a big turnover. I consider a good longevity, a year and a half, 2 years. That's great in this industry. Yeah. That's realistic. These days, I'm saying with crew, just get through a season, 6 months, because the demands are higher and higher.
Yeah.
And everyone's looking for the green of the next best opportunity. So I really see value in what you're providing here for the owners and the captains. But anyway, this owner was like, the coffee, we know how to make the coffee. It's 2.5 scoops and the water level's this. And in front of the machine, I have the instructions, but it's still, they just could not get it right because they're like, no, we use 3 scoops. I'm like, but it says 2.5. Like the owners don't want too strong, too weak. I'm like, so yeah, it's really important that we do create these systems for the owners and the clients.
Yeah. It is, because honestly, I've done some research and, new yacht owners coming in, it goes from 40 to almost 50%. They will sell the boat within 3 to 5 years. And it's because of crew and leadership. Like it really is. It's not because they hate yachting. And also too, being told how much it is to maintain a ship,
exactly.
The cost of everything. So
the
like
reality.
that all plays a role. But the reality, but it also doesn't help when you're coming in, what is luxury? And that's one of the things I started researching a lot on is, for someone like us, what does the word luxury mean versus an owner? It's two different, definitions. For an owner, for us, it's basically, the nice yacht. The yacht is the luxury. Them coming in on their private plane is the luxury. And luxury to owners it's time, it's precision, it's, everything working, peace, privacy. That's what they pay for. That's when you start making that kind of money. It's not about the things that you have anymore. It's about how can I have my privacy? How can everything works smoothly? You pay that extra money to get that. We're not a days in. And that's why I always, when you hear crew members always saying, I have, 15 years of hospitality and I want to come into yachting. Well, this is totally different. You're cleaning constantly. If you're taking a shower 5 times a day, guess what? You're cleaning that shower 5 times a day. And they pay for that. Like that's what they expect. Because they don't want any issues. They have enough stress at work. They don't need to come on their yacht and have stress.
Well, this is exciting. We can talk about whatever we want. I know we had a couple of questions here and some ideas, but it really made me think because people ask why I do what I do. And the number one reason I push the crew, I push the boat, the owner, to get a standard, right? To create this luxury environment. And over 7 days, in my 25 years in yachting, it's so small. The experience that the clients have, the timeline is so small for them to get that space. And it's like, for example, it's generally only sometimes 10 minutes a day when an owner or a client can actually sit and relax. They've got their tea, they've got their space. You see their stress levels coming down, the blood pressure's reduced, the kids are playing, they're reading a book, they're spending time with their partner. And I see them in this zone and the sun's at the right angle and the dolphins are there. And those moments, because I look for them so hard and everything else is creating these moments of luxury. And you're right. I think the further, the longer we do this, the more the owners are looking for that specific moment in time.
Yeah.
Correct. And that's space. That's creating space for them.
It is.
That's why I think the interior department is the key to that. The interior department, to me, standards of the interior department and of service are the key to that.
Yeah. And that's why I think that, having more statistics in yachting is going to be great. And I'm seeing it a lot more recently than I ever had before. Before, you never saw statistics because you're also getting the new age owners that are coming in. It's new money. So there's difference between old money and new money. So this new money that's coming in, it's the glam. They've never had money before. So it is about the yacht. It's about like the champagne and popping and all that stuff. And then when they realize that chaos turns into the chaos on the interior or like not interior, but the boat itself, the program, then they want to sell the boat because they realize later on until after the problem happened, it's like, wait a minute, I make all this money to get peace. It's fun to have flash, but that flash only lasts for a second. It's not forever. You only do that for a minute and then you're like, wait a minute, I need privacy. I want to go somewhere. Why do people pick all these places? When you're going into the Exuma or the Caribbean, it's to get away from people. They want something that no one else goes to. That's what they pay for. They don't pay to go to Disneyland,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's why on Deck Yachting, you work a lot with HR, onboarding. And that's why one of your posts here, we talk about, I think on Instagram, we talk about choosing the right program. Do you choose the party program or not? So you're trying to make sure the crew align, whatever the vision is. It doesn't mean you're taking a side. You can have the party boat. If that's the way you want to align and that's the way your owner wants to be, have the party boat. Stay in Bahamas and go to the casino. But that's why crew need to spend time choosing the right program.
Correct. And for me, I am not into firing. I don't really believe in firing unless a crewmate is doing drugs or, drinking excessively and just doing things that you're not supposed to. But if it's outside of that, it really needs to be like working with your crew. And that's one of the reasons why I want to do the HR, because when you actually sit people down and talk to them and say, hey, there's a difference between, do this versus this is why we're going to do it. So if you always give people a why and give them a purpose or something, like I just did a post on there about, teaching a second stew or a third stew below you. It's like, it's okay to be nervous. If you mess up, oh, well, we all have. Keep going. If you're going to shake, pouring that drink. And if you spill a little, oh, well, life is not going to die after that moment. It's going to teach you lessons and you're going to get better much quicker when you're embarrassed, but you have to go through those embarrassments. And unfortunately, HODs and like you were saying, captains, it's like not everyone's trained to really like deal with people. And people is like the number one thing: communication, time management, and people. Those are the most very basic, but very complex thing. And so if you can actually have an HR where crew can call and vent and be like, oh my God, I hate this person, without being judged and be like, okay, you're fired the next day because you just complained about something. It makes them, that's one thing that I actually learned when I actually got out of yachting for a second, because I wanted to finish my degree. I worked at Carnival Cruise Lines, which is so funny. I did like I wasn't on the ships, but I did like the inbound calls. And and I loved how Carnival was like set up, and it's something that I'll always carry with me. It's just like you have all these people that get in and they're like pissed off with their job. They're like, I hate this job. I'm going online and I'm going to find a different job, and they'll go on and do their resume, all this stuff. Carnival knows it. They see it. They see everything on your computer and they don't care. They let you vent because they know tomorrow you're going to be like, okay, I didn't mean it. I'm not going to leave. And you have to allow people to vent. And I think that was brilliant on their end. Instead of taking in what those people are doing on the computer and being like, are they finding a new? Let's fire them. Let's get rid of them. No, you just sit back, stay silent, and just let them vent. And then you work out them.
I have this policy on board that, it's a 3-month probational period. That's a long time. Yeah. When I do my onboarding meeting with the crew member, after we go through the employment process and all, it's quite a long process, and agreements and paperwork and familiarization. And I usually say to them, look, I'm going to do my best, try not to judge you for 3 months. So
love that.
Let's not judge each other for 3 months. And in 3 months, let's sit down and see where we went. There's going to be mistakes and we're going to talk about them. But let's not judge each other, because you have to make these mistakes. And I had a chef recently and he came and it was a terrible experience from all parties the first week or two. And I'm like, this is not going to work. Everyone's thinking it's not going to work. But over that next month, we developed. We got through it. Yeah. Month 2, great. Month 3, perfect. I'm like, there you go. That's why. You've got to go through the ups and downs. You've got to be upset with each other in a professional manner. And then it creates a long-term sustainable approach,
Yeah, that is awesome. And I'm so glad that you do that, because that's exactly why I started, because I want to implement that. I mean, that is so important, because we all need a venting time. We're learning each other. It's like being in a relationship and you get in a first fight with anyone. It's the same thing with your crewmates. I mean, we live together, we eat together, we know everything about each other. Okay, we're borderline dating each other because of how much we know and how much there's no space in between anything. And that's why I said we have to learn to fight. So with, whenever I'm training people, I always say I have a 10-minute rule. We cannot be mad at each other more than 10 minutes. And there's absolutely no name calling. So like,
that's a good one. That keeps it. Okay, well, I can't do that. I
Yeah,
love
because
it.
those words you can't ever take back. And that's the thing. So like when you make
Yeah.
that rule, it's like you can be mad and be like, oh, you're being such a, that's it. Just leave it at that and then walk away. You know what I'm saying? You could still be angry, take it out, but go and like say it in your head, go to somewhere else and just say it out loud and scream it on the top of your lungs. But don't ever say it to the other person, because once you do that, that animosity is really hard to, I mean, that's anything in your normal life. Anyone that says you're this, and then you're like, oh my God, am I? So you're either going to take it back and like, you know, have a heart attack about
It's
it.
the old how much you can take as well. It's like how much, you know, when the glass is full, the glass is full. And when you're done, you're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So talk to me more about the onboarding process for On Deck Yachting. So a client reaches out to you, an owner or a captain, and says, we're interested in working with you. What do you go through? What are the questions you ask them, or how do you go through the process? Because it sounds really exciting. I think it's great.
Yeah. So basically I have these like 3 different packages that you can like, it's basically build your own, because every program is completely different. So for me to sit there and say, this is exactly what I think, no, basically I come on, it's like, what problems do you see that you want to solve? What are you not happy with? You know, those are the things that I want to ask and get to know. And first of all, I want to get to know their personalities first off. So I'm going to ask a lot of personality questions. You know, it's like, what do you like to do for fun? All of that stuff. So I can see your personality, because you might not be able to tell me something about yourself because it's about ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like you might not know what you're doing, but if you tell me just anything about, I can talk to you for 5 seconds and tell you right off the bat what type of person you are. I can look at anything when you're sitting down at dinner, for instance, service. You know, if you're sitting there, the way you use your cutlery is how I'm going to address you, which is so weird. I teach all my girls this because, you know, a lot of people they have different types and styles of etiquette of what's at the table. So if you use the wrong fork, you use your salad or your main fork for your salad. Now I know I can relax and talk to you. If I know that you're using your proper, now I know I have to be a little bit more proper to you. If you definitely are crossing your forks and doing that, now I know that I'm not supposed to speak to you during service. It's all those different things. So I'll do the same thing in my interviewing process when,
but people don't teach people that these days. I mean, I know there is interior courses, but that's, you know, I come from a restaurant background. My parents run restaurants on the East Coast of Australia. Most of things, what I was taught is watch, observe, don't talk, you know, listen and look, and you will learn so much more from people, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And that's, I think growing up for me, I think I was so insecure about myself that I wanted to be everybody else. I was never really happy with myself. So I memorized everything everyone did. And that's what I wanted to do, you know? And then once I got older, I was like, wait a minute, you know, I'm still young. I'm like, you have to figure yourself out. And so I picked up this thing where I can like pretty much like read people or read situations. And some people will say, Lisa, how did you know that was going to happen? You know, I had this one girl, it was just funny. Like I was just sitting in the interior and I haven't been on deck in a long time. And I was like, we're drifting. And she's like, what? And I was like, I feel like we're drifting. Like I just looked outside, not even paying attention, and no one said anything. And then so I, you know, radio the captain. He's like, "Stay in your lane, Lisa." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And like 20 minutes later, everyone on deck, we're about to hit the sport fish. Like, and I was like, I thought you were. Like, I felt that. And it's more because you pay attention to your surroundings. Like, you know, when you're looking at something on the outside, it's like, okay, well, that tree wasn't there 5 minutes ago, so something hadn't changed. You know what I'm saying?
That's that awareness. Like I have this conversation about flow. What is the most important part of a charter for me is this, what I call flow, and people don't get it, but it's like dance. It's a show. We're putting on a show, people, and you need to narrate every part of that show so the client feels natural. So the way you walk around a deck, the way you hold yourself, the way you tie up a tender, the way you drive a tender, the way you present, every single part of this operation needs to be so well refined that it is a performance that there is no mistakes. And that's hard. You know, I put it down to training. Before charters, I think training's everything, you know, to me.
Well, in taking constructive criticism is important because it's not only just the training, because, you know, we'll give an example on the interior. It's like chefs and, you know, chief stews. Why do they argue so much? It's because the chef has their own vision of how things are going to go out. But then the chief stew is listening to every conversation that's happening from morning till night, and they'll make comments. Like you'll always notice guests will never complain about anything. They will talk about it indifferently about a situation on another charter that they were on. That's a cue to say, hey, change what you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Something's wrong.
yeah, there's something wrong. So then when the chief steward goes and tells the chef, it's like, no, you're telling me how to do my job. It's like, no. This is what I'm listening and hearing from people. It's like, you take it how you want. Because at the end of the day, you're accountable for your own, and you don't want to get to that point. It has to be more of like crew bonding together and saying, hey, okay, if your chief steward's coming into me and saying this, okay, something must be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Or go ask questions at some point. Because at some point, the guests are going to want to talk to the chef. And that will be the end to say, hey, I was thinking, not Lisa told me you did this. It's more of like, I was kind of playing around. Do you like pancakes? Or, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
You have a preference sheet. And they're like, no, we actually don't. And then they start to realize that the chief stew's really on the side of the chef type deal. And that goes for every department. And that's just an example.
So that's a good example. What's the number one mistake you see from an interior perspective or as a yacht as an operation that you wish owners and even brokers, because at the end of the day, we involve brokers because they're such a huge part of the operation of the yacht. They create the expectations for the clients. So what's the biggest mistake you see people make?
The biggest mistakes that the crew members make, or
like an interior, the biggest mistakes like the lack of communication or the lack of clarity.
For the brokers, and I would have to say, is really reading the room. I think I try to teach that a lot, like read the room. So that's kind of going off subject. I guess if I were to tell a management company broker, just realizing how much the interior actually does and how many different directions we're being pulled. And, until you're actually in it, you have no idea. I mean, we're doing laundry, we're doing service, we're booking flights. We're actually doing some of the stuff for the excursions that's going because they're talking to us about it because they're in their room getting trips and they're saying, hey, we want to do this and this and that. So now you have to go about and tell the first officer or the captain what's going on. We're being bounced in 20 billion different directions. So you have to kind of give people a little bit more credit and not get so frustrated so quickly. And like you said, having that period of like just learning each other. Don't be so quick to just call someone off. Actually like figure out, a routine because you can build that together. And so for on the interior portion of it, just mistakes really is going back to like reading the room. Not every yacht's the same, but at the same time, like I read an article about, someone saying, I don't like when crewmates bring up their past boat. For me, I love it. Tell me everything because then I know why you're making these mistakes. You know what I'm saying? It's not them telling you this is how it's going to be. This is me saying, okay, this is why I've been doing. So now I'm like, okay, now I saw what you're doing. This is actually not the proper way. So I can actually tell you about all that stuff. So I actually want to know everything you've done on your last vessel so that we can like figure it out and say, hey, this is why, or you never know. It could be like the best idea is like, okay, let's change up my way and let's do it your way. Because there's 20 ways to skin a cat, there's not
that's
one.
Why On Deck Yachting is quite bespoke. It's vessel by vessel, client by client. You help build a structure for it and irrelevant of, not saying irrelevant of the crew members themselves, relevant of the face, at least the owners can expect a certain standard.
Correct. Or like
the owners and captain.
Yeah. And same thing. It's like, everything follows the line. And so it's funny, my owners, I had really, really good owner that I was with for a long time. And they taught me everything on the owner's perspective and on a business perspective. Because what is our down to earth versus theirs? What is saving money versus our saving money? And it's massively different. We've all grown up differently, especially when it comes down to crew. Saving money to a wealthy person is completely different than saving money as someone who's middle class to maybe, lower class. You have to figure those things out. And I had to realize that going in. And so I was lucky enough to get taught a lot of things coming from that perspective.
Oh, excellent. So we talked about choosing the right program. We talked about crew retention, the importance of having a structure, and that helps the crew retention and the onboarding process.
Yes, it does.
What other HR skills do you think are important we bring into yachting?
Some of the HR skills is really just having someone to be able to, so I want to use this like platform where everyone has their own profile. So if they are upset with anything or if they feel like they need a vent, they can actually go in and make these notes. And then we go in and actually look at those notes and see, and then we can write notes back. And then, or we can set up a meeting, at the end of the trip and say, hey, let's do this. Were you just upset? Because a lot of people lead with emotion. If you think about it, everyone does. There's not one person.
I was going to say everyone does.
Everyone does. And it's hard not to. So like you kind of need that third party that comes in and say, okay, I think you're a little emotional. Well, you can't say it like that, but don't let your emotions take over everything. And because once everything, like you said, with the 3-month thing, it will simmer down and you get hyped up because we all don't want to fail. That's what it comes down to. When you're on a trip, you're nervous because nobody wants to fail. No one wants to show these people a bad time because A, you don't want to lose your job. B, you don't want to look stupid, and that's normal on every department.
Yeah, I have this thing, take the people out of the problem. And that once I do that, like captain and engineers, we are naturally designed to have conflict. That's just, as a captain of a yacht and as an engineer down the bottom, we always have a different approach to things. The way we think is different. As a captain, we think kind of navigation, global management. Engineers think don't break the things, how to maintain them, how to run them up correctly. So the engineers and I will always have a conflict, but I always say, let's take the people out of the problem. This isn't a captain engineer talking. This is two people talking neutrally about how do we solve the issue. What is the issue and how do we have solutions to that issue, taking ourselves out of it.
And it's really like putting in roles too, because I've interviewed hundreds of people and it's crazy how much I will ask each person, what are your responsibilities within your role? And I don't think I've ever had one person really tell me what their responsibilities are. And I think that's why the junior crew really love me, because I'll sit there and say, hey, this is your department. This is what you're responsible for. Everything in this circle is you. I was like, ultimately it is me. But when it comes down to accountability, if it doesn't get done, that is on you. So if I come in and like help you out and do something, because I was like learning over time, I was going in and actually, because I'm a chief stew that's actually very hands-on. Like You'll never be one that just sits up in the wheelhouse and do nothing and think that I'm doing inventory. I want to go down. One day you want to do service, go ahead and do it. I'll clean toilets and do beds. I don't care. I have no.
By the way, I think you're phenomenal. I think what you've created here is unbelievable. And just talking to you, I can feel your passion and excitement about it. And I think it's a wealth of knowledge that's come from, it's really proud of you. Well done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because I just want to. I just want to see this industry be better. I had a lot of hardship within the industry, and I don't want to leave and exit in something that I've dedicated so much time to, and kind of like just leave it as okay, whatever. Let the next people kind of handle it. Like I want to watch people grow. Like I want to watch these people become chief stews, first officers to captains. Like I want to see everybody do really, really well.
But it's third party oversight that's what we're lacking. And I think that's what we're talking about here. Because as a captain, we have the way we think it should be run. As a chief stew, the way we think it should be run based on our independent experience. But it's important that we have that third-party oversight that kind of takes another angle at it. Like I had one owner once tell me, Liam, helicopter view, captain, helicopter view. And he always said this. So I'm like, one day I was like, okay, tell me more. And he's like, if you just take yourself on a helicopter 1,000 foot in the air and look down, do you see the same problems? And if you don't see that problem, then don't worry about it right now. Like prioritize the only 2 or 3 things that you can actually see and control. And a lot of times I use that analogy. Like you need a third party oversight to help you have a different perspective to solve the issue.
Yeah. More eyes, the better. And especially the higher you get, and especially with captains, like who do you guys really have to vent? Who does the HODs have to vent to? And thank God, the exterior has the captain. At least you guys can go together. The interior really doesn't have that. It's like who do we go and like talk about? The captain, honestly, like, it's not that you guys don't know, but you weren't trained to like make beds properly or make
I agree with
cocktail and do all of that stuff. So how do you talk with someone that is not in it? And so that's with the third party portion of it. And I think that's where our company actually has, because I have exterior and interior, the HR department does work because I know how the exterior works and I also know how the interior works. So whenever people are, having their struggles, I can see from both sides and try to be as neutral as possible. Because that's always the.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fantastic. So we're talking about leadership support then. How do you think, or what have you seen as traits for a good leader and what traits have you seen for a bad leader in your experience or when you look at these different platforms that you work with?
I think that definitely the frustration on the negative side. I think some HODs definitely get very frustrated and you have to really take yourself back and remember, why are we paying the junior crew what we're paying because they don't know. They're coming in and they're learning. And we sometimes get so focused on the trip itself that we just automatically say, well, I showed you 3 times, you should know by now. And it's like, no, it takes time. It's like, how long did it take us to actually get to where, and kind of brings them back down a little bit. I don't think people, I definitely think a percentage are malicious and just has an ego power trip of I'm in charge, you're going to do what I want to do. And then you have the other is just they don't know how to manage it because no one's really taught them how to manage it. So they get frustrated and they forget that it takes time to build. Just because you said it 3 times doesn't mean they're going to learn it. And the more you yell at someone, the more nervous and the more they're going to mess up. And so that's where On Deck comes in, and we can actually be with these people and say, hey, okay, where do you find the problem? My second student's not listening to me for this reason, this and this and this. Okay, now I'll say, what are you doing? And then giving a fresh look is like, oh, okay, maybe I can make these changes instead of looking at it as drama. Because a lot of people think all of that stuff is trauma.
It's true, actually.
Yeah, because I always give this example. Like I had a chef once, like kind of walk in on one of my interviews once, and he at the end of the interview, he's like, Lisa, why are you getting all up in their drama? Who cares? Like, stop. Why are you trying to be part of that? That's the stupidest thing ever. And I'm like, no, actually, it's not, because their drama at home is what they're going to bring on board. So I need to know what chaos is coming on board. I need to know that you're fighting with your boyfriend 24/7, because now I know you're probably going to sneak off on your phone and talk. You know what I'm saying? Like I use it as more of like finding out information of how I can better lead you. So now I know that, this person is doing that. And my, crew stayed, and his people actually, he went through a lot of crew turnover, and my entire staff stayed, because you have to know those things. It's not about the drama. Same thing when I'm looking at preference sheets and I look up, I'll look up some stuff on the owners. I don't care who the owners are, how much money they make, but I want to know if they're in these charities, it tells you who they are as a person. You don't just become part of something. And so it makes it easier for you to interact with those people and be able to bond and make it feel more natural versus, just assuming.
Well, the thing I like about what you're saying is, I'm not going to kind of go into men and women in terms of yachting, but I just had an interview with a lady from Maritime, yachting in Maritime. One of the biggest things I think females bring into this space, and it is a very male-dominated industry still, and I really push against that, because the one thing I think females bring into this space is care. And what you're saying is, by a lot of times these men, whether it's captains or male chefs or whoever it is, they say, don't get involved in that, or block it. Whereas females like, no, you have to care about people. You have to hear the stories. You have to understand the problems in order to create a better environment. And that's what I really enjoy about it.
It's information. I don't look at drama as drama. Drama is only drama if you make it drama and you get it. It's like, oh my God, what did you tell that person? What did they say? It's more of like sitting back and listening and like collecting information. It's like, okay, now I know how we're going to, do all this stuff. But that's me, because I read a lot. I'm always learning to I don't know. I just love people. When people ask me if I love my job, I'm like, I actually love my job. And I have. And I've had owners say you haven't been tainted by this industry yet. And I'm like, no, I don't know. I love the chaos and I love the challenge that it gives. And I love people. You just have to get to learn people.
Understood. Everyone's got their different roles. That's what I've learned. For me, I love going to sea. My number one thing in this world is going to sea. What I spend 80% of my time dealing with the things that you're kind of saying, is whether it's the drama or the crew placement or the HR or the structure. And I'm like, can't I just go to sea? And as the boats get bigger and bigger in my career, I'm like, I spend more time doing other things than actually doing what I love. So as I age and to get more mature as a captain, I'm realizing outsource the problems to On Deck Yachting, outsource media issues to professionals, so you can actually spend more time doing what you're actually good at it. And for me, I'm good at preparing a crew to go to sea and give clients great experiences. And that's what I think people need to focus on, as opposed to the HR issues or the different issues that your company provide a solution for.
Yeah. And that's one of everything that I've watched and seen you've done, we need more of that. We need more captains that understand that, understanding it's this is your job role and this is what you do. And instead of saying that you have to control everything, and not all captains are like that. It goes with brokers. You see brokers talking crap about captains talking about,
Yeah.
I don't like these management companies. And it's more of because not understanding what our role is. So I'm really
Join
huge on
Mean.
that.
Join Mean is from the Super Yacht Alliance, and it's a great group that created the I Am a Guest program. You know, the I Am a Guest interior COCs? And that's Joy Mean. And I had a great conversation with her, and she kind of brought up the same thing. She goes, do you realize there's about 56 jobs in yachting? And I was like, no. And she's like, yes. We broke it down one day as a group. They have a lot of these action groups. And she goes, it's unbelievable. And brokers and managements, DPA, CPA, CA, CB, all these different names. And that's when you realize that everyone needs to know their roles and responsibilities in their role, in their title, and that helps that clarity. Whereas traditionally it used to be captain knows it all, captain does that, he's responsible. Captain's still responsible. It doesn't mean they know that, though. They're not an expert in that field, No,
that's perfectly said. And that's the thing. And a lot of people just want to take on more responsibility than they need to, because they feel it's like FOMO. Feel being left out, and it's like sometimes like you realize, and you don't realize it until you're older. Like you said, the older you get into the industry and the longer you've been in, it's like, man, I don't want to deal with any of that stuff.
And like I said, John, for me, it's giving back. Like you're creating a system now that people can tap into and see a benefit, and an owner can enjoy their experience. And that's your giving back. For me, my giving back is having these conversations that I hope people share and listen to and go, that's a good point. That's a positive approach, as opposed to the negative stories we hear in yachting. And that's a bit that, the reason that motivates me is I hear these negatives. I'm like, it's not all like that. It is a beautiful world. It is a beautiful space with beautiful people. 90% of the people in yachting, I think, are really special, that have changed their lives, gone through so much sacrifice in tight, confined spaces, hard work, long hours, and somehow we come out of it with a smile. That's a unique person. It's pretty messed up, but it's unique,
No, it's very unique. Are you kidding me? And it's funny to hear people say, how am I going to transition out of yachting and going back into land? I'm like, yachting's like military camp. This is like trained us up to do everything and anything 20 times better than anyone on land. Because
you're
it's
a warrior.
Yeah, you are a warrior because we have to make shit happen. You can't just be like, oh, sorry, we don't have the resources. Well, you better make up those resources because it's going that direction. And you're like, and it makes you think in so many different ways. And that's what that's what I love about this industry. It's
for some reason I think about pina colada, because I remember these guests were like, on their preferences, they didn't want any drinks. And all of a sudden, pina colada. And then it was like, within days, all they drink was pina coladas. And I'm like, hang on, how am I going to get condensed milk in Bahamas in the middle of nowhere? And I'm flying, end up having a boat bringing pineapples and condensed milk. And, it's like, this industry every day is a new challenge, Yeah.
Well, that's why preference sheets and all of that, that's why I get so detailed. And some people look at me crazy because I'll straight up ask owners, I was like, how many coffees do you drink a day? And they're like, like 3 or 4? Okay, great. So now I'm at 4. I'm going to buy for 5. So when I'm taking that information, you ask that, it's like, how many people can actually drink cocktails? Because I think purchasing is very difficult for people and it's very complex in general. I mean, we all have issues. What do? We like to go to the store and we just buy things, without even like calculation. So I look at everyone and calculate, okay, on average, everyone's definitely going to drink 6 bottles of water. That's off the bat, including crew, each person. So this is how you provision. I'd rather have a little bit more, but you don't want the excess, all of that stuff.
Yeah, well, that's a big part of it. So in closing, though, because you and I could talk for hours, I think. I look forward to meeting you one day. I think I'm going to try and come to the Miami show or West Palm or something, because I'd love to catch up with you and learn a bit more.
Yeah.
But in closing, what's your we talked about advice for more senior roles. What's your advice for more junior roles, or people that have stewardesses or deck crew that have got into the industry, they're in those struggles where the captain's upset with them or telling them 3 or 4 times? What's your advice for them?
Research. You have the internet. You're on your phone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just mentored this decky and he was so upset because they're like, figure it out. Because a lot of people tell you to like figure it out. It's like, you have your phones. Go on there, figure out what Starbright versus, Flitz does. There's a difference between the two. So like go look it up and actually do the research. And when you start taking initiative and just researching what you do, it just comes out a lot better. And then all of a sudden you're doing it on your own time, on your own terms, no one yelling at you. And now you just know.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because it sucks doing it under pressure. It's like, hey, go get this and just do this. And you're like, oh, I don't even know. It's like, don't get nervous. We all mess up. But that's the other thing. HODs really have to, because I've heard lots of horror stories. It's like crazy about just getting upset with, younger crew. It's just like, hey, remember, chain of command. Do not go past it. If you have issues, write it down on a piece of paper. And then, at the end of the day, say, hey, can we sit down and can we talk about it? But also do your research. Everything cannot be handed to you. So there's a difference between being mean and making you figure stuff out to use your brain. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to be.
They also have to be accountable. Like you're saying, do your research and be accountable. There's a point where you can say, I don't know. But there's also a role that I always try and tell crew, you're employed as a professional. You're not, our responsibility is to train you to be better. But you need to know a minimum standard. So how can we help fill those gaps?
Yeah, and you have to put just as much effort as your HODs. If they're putting 50%, you have to come 50%. And that's why research for me, I'll always ask. I put little tests for my girls everywhere, and I'll just see if they do and I make it a game. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, did you notice anything today? They're like, oh my gosh, where? I was like, well, you got 10 minutes to find it, and it just becomes this game, and it's like just figuring things out and just. I don't know, just having fun with it, just research.
Well, that's it at the end of the day. I really appreciate the advice and the time. How can people get a hold of you, Lisa?
So basically you can go to my website. It's on www.ondeck-yachting.com. So you can see my website on there. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. Definitely follow me on LinkedIn. It's really on my personal, for Lisa Gould on there. You can see a lot of the stories that I'm starting to post up, and and you can find me on that.
All right, folks, you'll see the links below and above, and let us know what else you want to learn from Lisa. But I cannot thank you enough, Lisa. It was a great way to spend an hour. I really appreciate your time. You're full of energy, and I value what you do because you're helping creating a structure on board to help clients enjoy their experience. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about, is those moments that clients can have.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much, and it's been so much fun talking to you, even though I've never met you before.
Yeah, likewise. An absolute pleasure. We'll be in touch, okay? Thank you, Lisa. Stay safe.